Okay, good morning, good morning family, good morning community. I'm Craig Braithwaite. I'm an employee here at Harlem Hospital. I'm a physician assistant working in the emergency department, but my true bliss, what I really like to do is gardening, any type of gardening. On the ground gardening, plant pot gardening. Right now we're standing on the rooftop of one of Harlem's oldest buildings, which is the Women's Pavilion, on the 8th floor of the Women's Pavilion on the roof, in a space that's called the Harlem Hospital Ujima Garden. And what this is it's a rooftop, all organic, sustainable garden that's in its 4th year of operation here at Harlem Hospital. The Harlem Hospital Ujima Garden was the brainchild of a consortium of concerned thought leaders at Harlem Hospital that were looking for interesting ways to reach out to the community with a message that promotes health and wellness. And that message really comes through the idea of eating to live. So we started with the endocrinologist, Dr. Rhonda Truesdale. We started with the gastroenterologist, who's now the current president of the medical board, Dr. Joan Culpepper Morgan. We started with the support of the then CEO and Deputy Director CEO, John Palmer, and Dr. Lawrence at the time was second in command, and other thought leaders at Harlem that came up with the agreement to have a garden, and of all places on the roof. Now, who does that? Well, I do that. I'm Craig, I'm the Bush doctor, and this is actually my bliss. So we started with a plan to grow heart healthy, diabetes healthy, hypertension healthy fruits and vegetables that we can actually use for the benefit of our patients. Initially, our hope was to have a working kitchen that could be a model of culinary excellence to our patients, to show them by demonstration how to prepare, how to buy, how to choose, how to procure foods and vegetables in heart-healthy ways that are affordable, and most of all, they gotta taste good. So there's nothing better tasting than, I wish I had it within reach. Well, can I step out of frame and maybe reach to you? There's nothing better than a freshly picked, even though it's a tiny one, heirloom variety tomato. And to eat that, well, I wish we had smell-o-vision, I wish we had taste-o-vision, but that's a good tomato. Step back over. So we wanted to show our patients that this whole idea of eating organic, eating healthy, was available to them. And it really is. This is a solo project, more or less. I did have support and help from multiple services. I had to bring soil to the roof. I had to gather up pots and things from various sources. Some of them purchased, some of them just scavenged. I had to have the support of environmental services to borrow huge wheelbarrows in order to cart soil up to the roof, which is no small task, but worth the effort. It certainly gives me my exercise. And I did this all in a matter of a few days back in the spring of 2012. That's when the Harlem Hospital Ujima Garden was conceived, in the spring of 2012. And since that time, every summer, every spring, summer, fall season, I've increased my production capability of what's possible on a roof. And my idea, in a nutshell, would be, as I look out at the city of New York, I'm on the 8th floor, so I'm seeing the George Washington Bridge up to the northwest. I'm seeing my alma mater, which is City College, that big Gothic building straight to the west. I'm looking at Yankee Stadium due north there in the Bronx. And even when I look downtown, I can see that big spire of Empire State Building. These are all rooftop spaces. So you might say, well, why the roof? Why not have a garden on the ground? Well, you know, we've paved a lot of the ground. The roof are open, unused spaces. So my whole idea would be really every rooftop green. That's I guess, one of my mantras. And I even think that it could be beneficial to the community, to the building, to the city, you know, to have green spaces on a roof. It kind of connects people to the origin of their food. It makes it more available to have things that are relatively inexpensive if you grow them yourself. And I was just explaining to Reverend Stooks here that it may not be commonly known, but the U.S. Department of Agriculture has approved the idea of using your food stamps not only to buy food, but to buy food crops. So I can have a $10 food stamp coupon and I can buy $10 worth of tomatoes. And that's 3 or 4 tomatoes. And I could feed a family for a day, or I can buy $10 worth of tomato plants. I recommend heirloom varieties like Brandywine, Mortgage Lifter, Cherokee Purple. That's what I'm growing here. There are other more resistant varieties. I try to stay away from the GMOs. I'm not a big supporter of Monsanto at all. So I try to go with open pollinated vegetables and crops for which the seeds I can save and use next year. A seed bank is going to be an amazing thing for us to have as a species. And just as an aside, there's an Arctic seed bank that's actually been tapped in recently just to serve some of the world's struggling communities, a big refugee crisis happening in the Middle East. Won't digress too much. I keep it here. Has now risen.
You gotta shine.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. I know, it's dope. I can imagine. Okay. Okay. So. Yeah. So the plan was to have this space, and the ultimate plan for me is to support my 3 great tenets of sustainable gardening. You know, we look at our origins of medicine. We look at our origins of wellness. We look at the origin and the center of all of our families. Where is that usually? It's the kitchen. You know, it's what mom's doing. It's where we gather to talk and to speak and to be together in community and family. So somehow this whole idea of eating, living, health, and wellness have been interconnected all of the days of all of our lives, of all of our civilizations in time immemorial. And I'll bring this up to the current era and say, you know, there's a science to clinical nutrition and wellness. And in fact, we utilize some of our clinical nutrition students from Columbia University year by year to do counseling for our patients in some of our clinics. Most recently, we went to the heart failure clinic, Dr. Kurian's heart failure clinic. So this is a special population of people for whom what they eat will directly affect their health. We promoted the DASH diet, D-A-S-H, the DASH diet. You can look this up on any website. It's the dietary approach to stopping hypertension. So that's a diet that promotes wellness through low sodium, high potassium, high magnesium, high calcium, high fiber, low saturated fat, and is a culturally relevant dietary plan, no matter if you're from the Caribbean or you're from the Philippines or you're Muslim or whatever, you know, that will promote diet and nutrition and those elements for you. And imagine that concept now taken to the grander scale of growing it yourself. Think of the gratification you get. Think of the gratification I get. And I don't only get it growing it. That's not where it ends. I don't want anyone to think that this is Craig's Harlem Hospital Ujima Garden, although I would say my website is called craigsUjimagarden.weebly.com, just in case anybody wants some more information about this. craigsUjimagarden.weebly.com, just as a convenience to me. But my greatest pleasure is growing it, giving it away. So going to the cardiology clinic, meeting with the patients, having the clinical nutrition students talk to them about diets appropriate for their heart failure condition or whatever medical condition, and then having my Eat to Live cart filled with eggplants and kale and callaloo and lemongrass and mint and oregano and basil and onions and scallions and eggplant and all of the rainbow of fruits and vegetables that our cardiologists recommend that our patients eat. By rainbow, I mean, there's a spectrum of visible light. Everybody remembers from school, Roy G. Biv. That's an acronym, a memory tool for remembering the colors in the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Well, if you eat fruits and vegetables, not so much the animal products, but fruits and vegetables in that array of color, you're going to get the heart-healthy diet recommended by our best cardiologists, by our best endocrinologists, by our best gastroenterologists, primary care providers, and then you won't have to see me where I work, which is in the emergency room, when, God forbid, you suffer that stroke, that heart attack, that diabetic complication. We do very good work in emergency care. I think in all of the pantheon of modern allopathic medicine, I believe, maybe I'm biased, but I believe emergency medicine is about the best that we have to offer. We don't do the greatest job in preventive care, though. We don't tell patients really how to deal with their common cold, their common sore throat, like your grandmother would tell you. Gargle with salt water, or eat the chicken soup, or do this or do that. And I think it's the dietary advice that's most helpful, most preventive, most long-term, and most sustaining of human health and wellness. The garden, in fact, is like a metaphor for wellness. It requires preparation, it requires planning, it requires seeding, it requires tending, it requires nurturing, it requires weeding, and it requires harvest for your enjoyment, and it requires saving seeds and planning for the future. So the garden as a therapeutic space is also a good model or paradigm for human health and wellness. What I would see for the future is that, God willing, the creek don't rise, the administration allows me to continue or even expand this space. My greatest hope in Harlem would be, at Harlem Hospital, would be to have the rooftop of the K building. Why? Well, if you look around, this rooftop has a low balustrade, a low boundary. It's not a safe space if you were to invite, let's say, little kids or groups of people. Something could happen. But the K building has a huge exoskeleton of steel girders that can be fenced in and enclosed. Not enclosed from the rain and the bees and the birds, but enclosed from the accidents that people can cause. And that would allow me also to expand this small space to 4,000 square feet. 4,000 square feet, again, is my optimal single person maximum amount of space that would allow me to be a CSA. That means I'd be a community-supported agriculture. That means I would have enough production capability, the ability to bring to a market regularly bushels full, baskets full, whatever, of that week's produce, and allow it to be sold and purchased, or however, with the community that I would, be servicing. Not only to benefit the Harlem patient community, but now to show by example that this could be done. Now, I'm only one person, and this is only one roof. Imagine every rooftop green. Imagine that. Imagine someone deciding that we need more spaces that are green within an urban environment. I think that idea can go a long way. It could benefit, obviously, the air quality. Plants in pots act as an aquifer, meaning when it rains, some of that water has to fall into the gutters and the downspouts and be taken away by the sewer systems. A certain percentage of that is captured by the plants. Plants on the roof act as an insulator. It's a solar insulator from the damaging rays of the sun. Sun energy is an amazing energy. I mean, it's the first energy. When I think of the Bible, my favorite passage is Genesis 1:3. Okay, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:2, the earth was void and without form. Genesis 1:3, and God said, let there be light. So the first time God said, energize the universe, he didn't pick electricity. He didn't pick nuclear. He didn't pick heat. He picked light. And how our world, our planet uses light is the building blocks for all that we do here. Illumination, light, enlightenment, all of these terms mean the best and the brightest, I feel, as a a shovel, a tool, a steward of God's intention is to be involved in a garden space. And the benefits to us all are just so innumerable, I can only begin to talk about it now. Certainly, I would like to invite you all to see this space, especially once it's a more protected space, and to share the idea of rooftop gardening or sustainable gardening in your communities and, with your friends and with your family and with your world. My biggest hope right now would be a visit from Michelle. So right now I would like to say, Madam First Lady of the United States, I've heard your message, I'm with your message, I'm acting on your message. Please come and certify that I'm doing what you think needs to be done in this community, in this city, in this country, hopefully in this whole world. I think to have your okay that rooftop gardening is a good thing, sustainable green growing is a good thing, I think everybody's going to want a piece of that. So, Madam First Lady, you're welcome to Harlem Hospital, Ujima Garden. Okay. So let me show you some of what I got. This is an herb, not edible, more of a culinary or added to. This is a beautiful carminative.
It smells like lemon.
It sure does. You're going to see that theme over and over and over again in a garden because the scents, the colors, the chemicals plants put out that are spicy oregano. So that, you got to eat that one with caution. I got some collard greens over here. Step up. I'll see you when you come out.